OpenAI's coding tool, Codex, just got a pretty significant upgrade. Google dropped some new developer tooling today, and Sam Altman is out here posting growth charts on X and taking shots at Claude Code. So let's get into it. So OpenAI added something to Codex today, and it's called Subagents. And it's one of those things that once you see how it works, the use case becomes pretty obvious. Quick context, if you're not familiar, Codex is OpenAI's agentic coding platform. You can use it through a desktop app, browser IDE extension, or the CLI. It's a direct competitor for Claude Code. It's also not an autocomplete, it's designed to actually take on tasks end-to-end, and sub-agents are basically the next layer on top of that. The idea is pretty straightforward. Instead of one AI working through a problem from start to finish on its own, Codex can now spin up multiple specialized agents in parallel, each one handling a specific piece of the work, and then combine their results into one. You're not managing that coordination yourself. Codex handles all of that in the background. The way you trigger it is just plain language. The doc shows a good example. You tell Codex to review a pull request, spawn one agent per concern: security, code quality, bugs, race conditions, test flakiness, maintainability, and wait for all of them to finish and summarize the results. 6 agents running at the same time, each focused on one thing, and Codex pulls it all together at the end. Now, what makes this more interesting is that the custom agent system. You can define your own agents using TOML configuration files. You set the model, the reasoning effort, the sandbox mode, and which tools or MCP servers the agent can access, and the instructions that shape how it behaves. You can drop those files in a global folder for personal use or a project folder if you want them scoped to a specific repo. Codex comes with 3 built-in agents out of the box: a general purpose default, a worker focused on actually making changes, and an explorer that's optimized for reading and navigating a codebase without touching anything. That covers a lot of ground on its own, but the custom system is where you get real control. The doc walks through 2 solid examples. The first is a PR review workflow with 3 custom agents: a codebase explorer that maps affected files without making changes, a reviewer looking for real correctness and security issues, and a documentation researcher connected to an MCP server for checking API and framework behavior. The reviewer is running on GPT-5.4 with high reasoning effort because that's where the heavy lifting is. The other 2 are on a lighter model since they're doing more lookup style work. It's a sensible use of resources because you're not throwing the strongest model at everything. The second example is a front-end debugging workflow. One agent maps the code, another uses browser tooling to actually reproduce the bug, and a third comes in at the end to write the fix, but only after the other 2 have finished their part. That ordering matters as well. The fixer doesn't touch anything until the problem is fully understood. There's also an experimental batch processing feature where you give Codex a CSV, 1 row per file, service, whatever you're auditing, and it spins up 1 worker per row, runs them all concurrently, and exports the results back to a CSV. The kind of thing you normally need to write orchestration code for. A few things worth knowing about how it actually works under the hood. Codex only spawns sub-agents when you explicitly ask for it. Nothing is happening automatically in the background. There's a default cap of 6 concurrent threads, and a nesting depth is set to 1 level by default, meaning child agents can't spawn their own children unless you change that. And since each agent is making its own model calls, sub-agent workflows do cost more tokens, so this is something you reach for on genuinely complex tasks, not just routine ones. What's interesting about this from a product perspective is that it's a pretty deliberate step toward AI systems that can divide up work the way a small team would. The ability to assign different models, different tool access, and different instructions to each agent in a workflow gives you a level of control that actually makes sense for complex engineering tasks. Whether this becomes something most developers use regularly or stays in power user territory for a while is hard to say. But it's a well thought out system, and if you're already deep in Codex, it's worth knowing about and trying for yourself as well. Before we continue, we just launched the Universe of AI newsletter. If you want to stay on top of AI news without having to hunt for it, link is in the description. Don't miss out. Sam Altman also posted this today on X shortly after the Codex subagents drop. Basically, he's showing the Codex usage data, and the chart is genuinely hard to ignore. It's basically flat through most of mid of 2025, then it starts picking up a bit toward the end of the year, and then from January 2026 onward, it just goes near vertical. He said, usage is growing very fast, and looking at the chart, that's not an exaggeration. It's almost like a hockey stick formation. His comment alongside it was that the Codex team are hardcore builders and it comes through in what they ship, and that all the serious builders he knows have switched to Codex. That's a deliberate statement because he's not just talking about growth numbers, he's talking about the type of developers that are choosing it. The implication being that if you're building at a high level, this is where you end up. You'll end up using Codex. And that framing matters because it's clearly positioned against tools like Cursor, Windsurf, and Claude Code. This isn't a general AI announcement, it's kind of a competitive signal. What makes the timing interesting is that we are literally just going through the sub-agent feature, which is exactly the kind of thing that starts to separate Codex from everything else in the space, when you can define custom agents with different models, different tool access, and different instructions, and have them run in parallel on real tasks. There's a different category of tool than an IDE extension that auto-completes your code. And if that's part of what's driving that usage growth, it's going to make sense. But here's the thing, Claude Code is a real competitor, and I don't think it's as one-sided as the tweet makes it sound. Anthropic has been iterating on Claude Code consistently, a lot of developers genuinely prefer working with it, and the underlying models are different enough that depending on what you're building, one might just feel significantly better than the other. It's not obvious that Codex wins for everyone, but the workflows are also pretty different. Codex is its own environment, you're working with their app or CLI. Claude Code is more terminal native and sits closer to where a lot of developers already are. That alone shapes how people adopt it. And I'm also kind of curious about where you guys land on this, because me personally, I have been slowly switching over to Claude, but I want to know what you guys use on a day-to-day basis. Google also put out something today that's more on the practical side. They're rolling out new cost controls for the Gemini API through Google AI Studio, and it's the kind of thing that actually matters if you're building with it. The main thing is project spend caps. You can now set a monthly dollar limit per project directly in AI Studio, and once it's set, it stays active until you change it. And you can see everything in a dedicated spend tab. If you're running multiple projects under one account, that's going to be very useful for you. You're not just watching one global number, you can control spend at a project level. Worth noting, there's about a 10-minute delay on the cap kicking in, so technically you're still responsible for any overage in that window, but that's a pretty minor caveat. The other piece is a full revamp of their usage tier system. Previously, moving up to higher quotas and rate limits wasn't practically smooth. Now it's automated. As your usage grows and your payments history matures, the system upgrades you to the next tier on its own. They also lowered the spend thresholds required to qualify for higher tiers, so you're not just sitting at restricted limits longer than you need to be. Beyond that, they've added a rate limit dashboard where you can track requests per minute, tokens per minute, and requests per day across your projects, and a cost dashboard that breaks down your spend by day and by model, so you can actually see where your budget is going without having to cross-reference 3 different Google Cloud pages. None of this is headline grabbing, but if you ever had a surprise bill from an API or hit a rate limit at a bad time, this is exactly the kind of tooling you want in place. Is Google trying to make the Gemini API feel a bit more like something you can trust to build on at scale? Well, that's it for today's video. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, subscribe to our newsletter, follow Universe of AI on Twitter, and follow our main channel World of AI as well. I'll see you guys in the next one.